Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're making, well, a really necessary shift, I think. For so long, fertility conversations have really focused mostly on women.
That's true.
But if you're
Oh,
navigating this world, the male side is just as complex. It just uh, often doesn't get the same detailed discussion.
yeah, it's often overlooked.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We pulled together some really solid research that kind of gives a roadmap for understanding male fertility challenges. And our sources, they don't just list problems, they actually categorize them pretty brilliantly.
Yeah.
From the sperm itself through to genetics, function, all that. And crucially, we'll try to connect each challenge to how IVF, in vitro fertilization, can actually work as a solution.
Exactly right. It can feel like a maze, fertility stuff. But hopefully today we can give you a clearer map. We've basically boiled down the causes into three themes. We're kind of calling them the hardware, so sperm and testicles, then the software hormones, genetics, the stuff that regulates it all, and finally the delivery, functional issues, blockages. The goal is for you to really get the why behind the treatments by the end of this.
Fantastic. Okay, let's start right at the beginning then. The hardware,
Mm-hmm.
the sperm cell. When doctors are looking at male fertility, what are the key things they measure for sperm quality?
Right. So in any semen analysis, there are three big ones, non-negotiable, really. First is the count. Just how many are there? Simple as that. Second, motility. Can they swim properly? They need to move forward, with purpose to reach the egg naturally. And third is morphology. That's the shape, head shape, the middle bit, the tail. If any of these are off, it points towards where the problem might be.
And when they're off, that leads to these specific, sometimes scary-sounding diagnoses, right? Can you break those down a bit?
Sure. So based on count, you might hear oligospermia. That just means a low count. Or more severely, azoospermia, which is, well, a complete absence of sperm in the ejaculate. If the issue is movement, that's asthenozoospermia. And if it's the shape, teratozoospermia. What often surprises people, actually, is how strict the standard for morphology is. The research suggests for natural conception to be likely, you only need a surprisingly small percentage to have that perfect shape.
Wow, really? That low threshold kind of highlights how tough the whole natural process is.
It does.
I think I saw some data suggesting it's esospermia, the total absence, affects maybe 1% of all men, which really puts the focus back on the source, the testicles. What kind of problems do the sources point to that impact the testicles' job of making good sperm?
Yeah, the testicles are the factory, right? So they can be hit by things like infections, physical trauma, or specific testicular diseases. And when production is compromised there, it's often pretty severe. But what's fascinating is how this immediately points towards certain clinical pathways. If sperm quality or count is really low, especially with azoospermia, where you need to retrieve sperm, or extreme oligospermia, standard IVF might not cut it.
Standard IVF being where the sperm and egg are just put together in a dish.
Exactly, might not be efficient enough.
Hmm.
And this is where ICSI comes in, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Instead of hoping the sperm finds and penetrates the egg, ICSI lets the embryologist pick a single good-looking sperm and inject it directly into the egg. It basically bypasses any major issues with motility or numbers. It's a really targeted fix for those severe hardware problems.
That makes sense. ICSI is a direct bypass for severe issues.
Okay.
So moving beyond the factory and the product, let's talk about the system regulators, the software, hormones, which are the key hormones running the show for male reproduction.
We're mainly looking at a trio: FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone; LH, luteinizing hormone; and of course, testosterone. FSH basically tells the testicles, hey, make sperm. LH signals for testosterone production, and testosterone itself is crucial for sperm maturation and, well, overall male function. Hormonal disorders, maybe from the pituitary gland or external factors, even age, can really mess this whole system up.
And how does finding and fixing these hormone imbalances fit in with IVF? You might think if you're going straight to IVF, hormones don't matter as much.
But they really do. That's a key insight. Optimizing hormone levels, say, getting low testosterone up, or steadying FSH-LH levels.
It's not just for general health. It's often done before an IVF cycle. Why? To maximize the yield of usable sperm you can get. Our sources show that getting that hormonal environment right beforehand can improve the quality, maybe even the number of sperm retrieved. Even if you still end up needing ICSI, you want the best possible starting material. Okay, right. Prep work. Now here's where it gets really interesting for me. Moving from the regulators to the actual blueprint. Genetics. What are the big genetic issues our sources flag as direct causes of infertility?
Yeah, genetics are fundamental. They explain a big chunk of previously unexplained male infertility. The sources point to things like chromosomal abnormalities. Klinefelter syndrome is a classic example. It's directly linked to severely impaired sperm production. Then there are more specific things like Y chromosome microdeletions. These are literally tiny missing pieces on the Y chromosome. And those missing bits often contain genes crucial for making sperm, so their absence is frequently linked directly to azoospermia or severe oligospermia.
Hmm. I think I read somewhere that while those Y chromosome deletions are serious, they're also quite rare. Does knowing it's genetic or rare change things for the couple going through IVF? Like psychologically?
That's an excellent point, and it highlights why genetic counseling is so important. Y chromosome microdeletions are estimated to affect maybe 1 in 2,000 to 1 in 5,000 men. So yes, relatively rare. But if it is diagnosed, it's critical information because it immediately raises the question of inheritance. Genetic testing isn't just for diagnosis here. If a genetic disorder is found, it really impacts the IVF discussion. You have to talk carefully about the risks of passing it on, especially to a male child. It's all about informed consent and planning.
Absolutely. Okay, so factory product, blueprint, covered.
Oh.
Now, the final stage, delivery. Let's look at functional and obstructive issues, starting with ejaculation problems. Why is that basic mechanical delivery process so vital naturally, and how does IVF get around it?
Well, ejaculation is literally how sperm gets transported, right?
Right.
So problems with that function may be nerve damage, side effects from meds, or even physical issues causing retrograde ejaculation, where sperm ends up in the bladder instead of out.
Hmm.
It means perfectly good sperm just can't reach the female reproductive tract naturally. When that's the diagnosis, IVF becomes the clear solution because you need specific ways to collect the sperm outside the body. That might involve medical help to trigger ejaculation or sometimes retrieving the sperm from urine if it's retrograde. The point is, once you have the sperm sample in the lab for IVF, or usually IVF with ICSI, the physical act of delivery isn't needed anymore.
Right, you just bypass that step entirely.
Right.
Okay, what about broader male sexual dysfunction? Things like, say, chronic erectile dysfunction or other performance issues. When do they make IVF necessary?
Yeah, sexual dysfunction, which can range from performance anxiety to severe physical erectile problems, creates a really fundamental barrier to natural conception. If treatments for the dysfunction itself don't work or aren't an option, IVF offers a complete bypass. It just sidesteps the need for intercourse altogether. So the dysfunction might still be a personal challenge, of course, but it no longer stops the couple from trying to achieve a pregnancy. The focus shifts from the act back to the sperm viability.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, let's talk about a unique case.
Hmm.
An intentional blockage, vasectomy. People choose this for contraception, but sometimes life changes.
Exactly. A vasectomy blocks the tubes sperm travel through, causing what's called obstructive isospermia. Now, reversal surgery is sometimes possible, but it's not always successful, or maybe not the preferred option for the couple. So when reversal isn't happening, IVF is the way forward. But because the sperm is trapped, you need specific surgical methods to retrieve it. And the sources mention several techniques here. You might hear about PESA, which is aspiration from the epididymis, or TESA, aspiration from the testicle itself, or even TES, which involves taking a small tissue sample from the testicle to find sperm. Because the amount of sperm you get this way can be limited and needs careful handling, ICSI is almost always used alongside these retrieval methods. You want to give every retrieved sperm the best possible chance to fertilize an egg.
Wow. So the success then depends on the quality of that surgically retrieved sperm.
Precisely. The viability of what's retrieved is key for the IVF cycle's success.
This deep dive has really shown just how broad male infertility is. It's clearly not just one thing. It spans sperm quality, hormones, genetics, function, the whole spectrum.
It does, but the really positive message, and our sources back this up across every category we talked about, is that there are solutions. Whether it's severe oligospermia needing ICSI or a vasectomy needing TEAS, there are these highly effective targeted treatments and pathways like IVF and ICSI that offer real ways forward. The absolute key, though, is getting an accurate diagnosis first. You need to know what you're treating.
Right. Matching the solution to the specific problem. And that underscores the need for expert guidance, doesn't it? You need someone to figure out which barrier it is before you apply the fix. We really hope this deep dive helps you, our listeners, feel a bit more informed, maybe less overwhelmed by all the information out there on male fertility. It's definitely a journey, and knowledge really is power here. Now, before we wrap up, we absolutely must state clearly, This discussion was purely for educational and informational purposes. It should not be considered medical advice in any way, shape, or form. Please consult with qualified healthcare professionals for any medical concerns.
Absolutely crucial.
And for more detailed information about the entire process of in vitro fertilization, you can find comprehensive resources over on the portal ivfforme.com. That's IVFFORME.com.
Good resource. And maybe one final thought to leave you with, building on what we discussed. Our sources just touched on it, but the psychological and emotional side of male infertility, it's huge. So maybe something to consider as you continue your own research is what really stands out about the importance of mental health support for men, for couples, throughout what can be a really long and challenging medical journey. Definitely something powerful to reflect on.